Now Randy Johnson and I are going to spend a few minutes giving you a special sneak preview of the new Fitrix ERP Electronics Manufacturing Industry Edition. Next slide, please. So we're going to give you start by giving you a little bit of background information on our company, which is fourth generation software, and on our product, which we call Fitrix ERP. We're going to overview some of the key features that are important to electronics manufacturing, and we'll talk briefly about implementation services, highlight a few of our customers, and then there'll be a quick demonstration of the Fitrix ERP product configurator module. Next slide, please. Fitrix is a 21-module ERP software suite. It's designed for small and mid-sized discrete manufacturers and wholesale distributors. The first version was delivered in 1990. Since then, we've continuously improved and expanded Fitrix, and it's been widely deployed in numerous industries ever since. All the modules are consistent, they're fully integrated, and Fitrix uses a state-of-the-art SQL relational database. Next slide, please. Included with Fitrix are 5 accounting modules, 3 distribution modules, and also a customer relationship management or CRM module. Next slide, please. Fitrix also has 12 feature-rich manufacturing software modules. These plus the accounting, distribution, and CRM module are the foundation that the Electronics Manufacturing Industry Edition is built on top of. This is proven software. It's been deployed at a wide variety of customer sites and in many different industries and over many years. Next slide, please. So we're excited today to introduce the new Fitrix ERP Electronics Manufacturing Industry Edition. This new Industry Edition leverages the 21-module ERP software with the purpose of delivering a software product that's specifically designed to meet the needs of small and mid-sized electronics manufacturers. It's priced and packaged so that it's affordable, easy to implement. And now Randy Johnson is going to talk in more depth about some of the key features of this exciting new product. Take it away, Randy.
Thank you, James, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm pretty fired up to talk to you about some of the important features in Fitrix manufacturing today, and hopefully show you how they relate to some of the critical success factors that Sandy already mentioned in her presentation. Many of these features have been in the product for years, and others are fairly new. The first one we're going to talk about is the multi-level bill of material. Rather than a single-level flat bill where all the parts are lumped together, the multi-level bills let you set up the material being used in production as a hierarchy of subcomponents, and then they're grouped together to form a more natural structure. And for a lot of companies, this actually matches the way an item is assembled in production. So if you have cells or assembly lines feeding into other cells, this structure naturally follows that flow of material. For make versus buy, companies often have to decide from time to time if it makes sense to outsource production to another vendor. And the multi-level bills make it easier for you to see that subcomponent breakout and the materials that might be good candidates for outsourcing. Another advantage with multi-level bills is that when you're considering switching out a component, maybe to a different vendor, you can look at another multi-level view that looks at it from the component up as opposed to the top level down to see what parts of the bill might be affected by that change. And lastly, multi-level bills can show engineering changes when they're made at a lower level, how they affect intermediate subcomponents and top levels in the bill where that component is used. This is an example of our multi-level or indented bill of material in Fitrix manufacturing. And we see a bill for the Mac laptop. And we see the grouping of components and subcomponents under this column called level, so that directly under the Mac laptop we have a disk drive, hard drive, a keyboard, and a mouse that are purchase parts that go directly into the laptop. But if we look at the USB flash drive, we can see that it also has subcomponents of its own. So we go down through multiple levels in the bill of material to see the total structure for that Mac laptop. You'll also notice a column here called bill, and this is a flag within Fitrix that allows you to define multiple bills of material for the same item. So we could have, for example, an engineering bill, a manufacturing bill, or an as-built bill, and a service bill that might be used after a product's been shipped to customers that list out the items that could be serviced. There's another interesting column here called Phantom, about halfway across the screen. This allows you to identify subcomponents as exploding to their individual components on a parts list, so that when I create a production order to make a Mac laptop, rather than saying that I need a USB flash drive, the system knows that it's going to explode out and use components that are underneath that individual item. We can also see on the right here a details window that shows you some detail for the component itself. So I can see the operation where that component might be used. I can see effective starting and ending dates for that component in the bill, and also see how it's issued. Am I going to use a component issue or a backflush transaction to report production or usage of the components? The next subject is the serial and lot number tracking. In Fitrix, you can define manufactured and purchased items to be controlled by a serial number, a lot number, or both. The serial and lot numbers can be automatically assigned to items when they're received from purchasing or production, or you can manually enter them in cases where maybe you want to use your supplier's serial number, say, for a purchased item. Then when you use the items in production or shipping, you can enter the lot or serial number that you want to use by picking it from a list. So it minimizes keystrokes for that selection process. And then all the usage details are kept in history. So it's easy to see that the serial and lot composition of component materials that are used in production. And then you can see the details of this composition, and it helps with communicating with vendors whenever an issue with a produced item is related to its purchased components. Here you see one of our serial lot inquiries called the serial lot composition, and we can show here that we produced an item 4006,000, and when we produced it into inventory, it was assigned a serial number NGC4192. We can see the production order that it was built on and when it was placed into inventory. And then you can also see down below, for those component materials that were also controlled by serial or lot number, we see the serial numbers that went into them and the locations that they were pulled from to support the production. If we wanted to, we could take a look at any one of these lower level items with their serial number and go back to the original vendor and purchase order that those items were received on. The next subject is traceability and recall management. In addition to the serial and lot breakdowns that we just saw in production, Fitrix also stores sales history of all controlled items by customer and by sales order when they're sold. So any item that could be recalled is displayed or printed, showing all the customers with shipments of the items with quantities and dates. And again, when you use this with serial and lot tracking, any trickle-down effect on those items that might have an impact with purchase lots or serial numbers can be quickly noted back to the vendor. So here's an example of one of our traceability windows. This is our serial master, and it shows that we produced a lot called dark sherry of an item code CS1.6. It shows the production order that the item was made on, the date that it was produced, and we have the quantity that was received into inventory. Down below, it also shows customer identifiers and sales orders where this lot was shipped out to customers after production. So we can see two cases here where we shipped quantities of 10 to a customer called Denver on individual sales orders. And then we're kind of jumping ahead to the next feature, but you see a box to the right here called Warranty, and this allows us for those controlled items to define a number of warranty days that the item was going to be covered. And then if we have work that's done to cover warranty on an item after the fact, we'll keep track of the cost for material, labor, and any revenue associated with that warranty work as well. And as we just mentioned, the warranty tracking, that's we just saw the previous screen with the example of the warranty days and the the actual shipments to customers, those individual shipments take the warranty days along with the invoice dates to calculate a warranty expiration. And then when those warranted items are potentially requested for a return from a customer, if the date that the customer is requesting a return is outside that warranty period, the order taker will get messages about the fact that the warranty has expired for those items. We do offer full support for material returns via RMA. So the RMA authorization form can be sent to the customer. The materials typically return with the RMA and then examined for either exchange or repair. The replacement or repair orders are linked back to the original return and its original sale, so we have full traceability of original sale through return and then rework or repair associated with the return. And then any warranty work that's done in-house or in the field can be managed by warranty work orders that are also tied back to the original sale to properly account for warranty cost and see what the overall profitability of items are that are sold under warranty. Next feature is our make-to-order and make-to-stock. This feature lets the same manufactured item be built to stock for later sale from inventory, or it can be built to a specific customer order, which essentially bypasses the trip through inventory altogether. For a to-stock environment, demand is typically going to come from either sales orders or sales forecast, or a combination of the two, and we support both. The planning applications will create planned orders to produce and purchase items using the industry standard ordering policies that you're all probably familiar with. Make-to-order items, on the other hand, have a much more direct link between a sales order and the associated production. So the item on a sales order automatically creates a production order, and then it's committed to the sale. So when it's produced, rather than flowing through inventory, it's immediately staged to the sales order so that it's ready for shipment. And the make-to-order items can start with a standard bill of material and a labor routing, but then they can be changed for a specific order, and if those changes are made for that specific order, those as-built details are retained in history for future reference. So I can always go back and see how a specific item was built in a make-to-order environment. This collection of windows that you see here give you a better feel for the relationship between the different levels in our production system. So they will show a sales order on the left with customer and line item information. And you can see that our line item uses a special line type called MTO, which stands for make to order. That's the cue when the sales order is saved to automatically create a production order to feed that sales order. So the due date for the production order matches the requirement date from the sales order. And then you can see a window over here to the right where when I'm saving the production order, it does a real-time analysis of purchase items that would be needed to support that production. And if any of those component items are short, we'll be prompted to automatically create a purchase order that would also be directly associated with and committed to the production order. That PO can be created in a held status so that the emails could be sent to purchasing managers or buyers who would approve the PO for release. So you can kind of see how the flow of material works from purchase through production to sales and then ultimately to shipment to the customer. Next feature is our product configurator. You can get to our configurator directly from sales order entry while the CSR is taking an order, or you can do it from production entry in the case where you might want to make a configurable item and put it in stock right away. Configurations are displayed as simple questions and answers to the order taker, and they have a conversational format so that the order taker can capture the right information the first time in an easy format instead of having to go through multiple calls with the customer to get it right on multiple calls. Under the covers, the configured items have a base bill of material and a labor routing, and then they have dynamically added materials, labor, and miscellaneous charges that are brought in from options that are activated by answers to questions. As the product is being configured, the cost, price, and margin are all calculated in real time, so you've got a quick view of the profitability of a product as the order is being placed. And then options for the configurator can be set up so that you can attach pictures to those options so that part of the The question and answer session will be to show pictures to the order taker so that they can confirm with the customer that they're getting exactly what they want. This is an example of the product configurator that displays for an order taker. And you can see some summary information at the top that confirms that this configuration relates to an order that I'm working with. It also allows you to define something called a catalog, and this is a free-form identifier for a specific configuration that would allow you to save a configuration under an identifier and then be able to reuse that to save keystrokes later on. You'll see in the demonstration in a few minutes that answers to questions that you see below here, they can activate options. They can also affect other questions and answers that might be turned on or off. So you select a certain feature or option from a question, that might activate another sub-feature that the client would have access to as well. And then you can also see here we have cost and price, and behind the scenes we're also calculating what the margin, both the margin amount and margin percent would be for that order being placed. And again, we'll see demonstrations of that product in just a few minutes. The available to promise and advanced planning features allow you during sales order entry for any item that's not available from inventory, it's immediately placed on back order, and an available date is calculated real time by the system so that the customer knows when they'll be able to get that item if it's not available immediately. If you're using the advanced planning applications, this available date is the next available receipt, either from an active production order or a planned production order. If you use our finite production scheduling feature, this date could also be based on an available receipt, next available receipt, or it can be based on a real-time analysis of the available component inventory combined with the plant capacity to produce. So we're actually seeing if you have the plant resource to build that item, and the date that gets calculated from that would be based on the time it takes to bring in any of those short components and the time required to do the production. That's all happening real time while the order is being placed. So we can see from this example of our, again, going back to our sales order entry screen, in this case, we're placing an order to a customer, and they want 25 units of an item, but we don't have any of those units in stock at the time. So because of that, the back order information window comes up, and it shows the quantity that could be shipped immediately. In this case, it's 0, and the entire quantity would be back ordered. And in that case, then, we will calculate a back order available date to let the customer decide if the order should proceed. The features within our compliance part of our software include the ability to store the manufacturer's name, part number, and a part description with every item that we set up. We also support multiple sources of user-defined compliance by item, including the RoHS and REACH, some of the entities that Sandy talked about earlier. And we can attach PDF documents related to the full material declaration or any other compliance certificate with a component item. And because we have that at the component level, and I've already mentioned the multi-level bill of material feature, that compliance is then pushed up through the multi-level bill to show the related compliance to the items that are at the production level. And finally, we track which vendors don't provide compliance documentation so that they can be removed from the approved vendors list and replaced after an appropriate grace period. And the last feature I'll talk about is our quality management feature, supporting collection of data on the shop floor with user-defined criteria for capture of test results, instruments or device that you might have used, and alerts. So the frequency of capture for that data can be done at multiple levels within a production run. I can do it at the component level when I'm issuing the component to production, or at the end of a process when the completed item is being received and inspected to go into inventory, or I can also report at individual labor steps in a production order's labor routing. This user-defined data that I mentioned can be text, numeric, or dates, and you define that by item and component and or operation for reporting during the production process. And lastly, the test results can be used for reporting and analysis and to affect downstream workflow. So that's kind of a quick review of the features in Fitrix today.